Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here in sunny Montreal, Canada at Thales's Cortex Artificial Intelligence facility. Our coverage here was sponsored by Thales, who invited a whole bunch of reporters from around the world to join us here. And I'm honored to be talking to Patrice Caine, the Chief Executive of Thales Group. Patrice, great seeing you again.
Good afternoon.
It was great, fantastic program talking about the artificial intelligence capabilities of the company. And for those folks who don't know, Thales is an $18 billion company with 65,000 employees worldwide. You sealed a number of very important mergers and acquisitions over the last couple of years to broaden the IT, the data, and the cyber capabilities, Gemalto, Vormetrics, and then Guavus. And you know, for those folks who don't know enough about the history of the company, you've been on artificial intelligence and machine learning for more than 30 years. But now this is sort of the hottest topic. Talk to us a little about your roadmap, because you're looking at artificial intelligence both internally in order to facilitate better products, but also for internal processes, systems, and products. So there's an internal and an external role. Walk us through the artificial intelligence strategy of the company.
Well, artificial intelligence is one of the four key digital technologies that we decided to really invest a lot in. Let's say we started in 2016, around 2016, meaning that alongside artificial intelligence, IoT, cybersecurity, and data analytics are also key digital technologies for us, and even more importantly for our customers.
And what do you? It was, I think it's how much is the investment?
7
billion
euros
euros.
over the past 2 to 3 years now.
Which is an extraordinary amount of money, and you have also a very, very aggressive growth plan where your R&D investment is going to be increasing. You're about $3.5 billion a year, which is an extraordinary amount of money that you guys are spending. Talk to us a little bit about what are the first products that you're going to be releasing that has this capability, you know, that this strategy is going to be producing, because you're betting big on a few dream technologies that are going to be game-changing for you in the marketplace. What are some of the first things that people will see that are going to be the fruits of this investment?
I can take some examples to be as concrete as possible. The first, I would say, possible outcome is related to autonomous metro. And we have demonstrated that with the New York Metro end of last year. So it's working, it's real, it's not a dream. Now, whether they will expand it or not, it's their decision. But we have demonstrated that, yes, you can run a metro with an artificial intelligence in an autonomous and not automatic, autonomous way. We are also using, if I take an example in defense, for instance, artificial intelligence to give to sensors what I call the ability to learn by themselves. So self-learning capability.
Right.
You take a radar or a sonar. In the past, they were comparing an acoustic signature with a database and taking, I would say, the right decision or giving the right information to the operator. Now, to be even more efficient, this same sensor, radar or sonar, is able also, by listening, able to understand who he has in front of him and recognize the signature by itself.
Do you think, what do you think is going to give Thales the edge? Because if you look at this marketplace, everybody is investing heavily on it. So the big US defense giants, Lockheed, Boeing, Raytheon, Northrop, are all putting enormous investment in. You have all the Silicon Valley guys, whether it's Amazon, Google, Microsoft even, who's partnered with you as a co-opetition a little bit there, where it's a partner but also a potential competitor. What do you think is giving you the edge in this marketplace where a lot of very big guys are investing, but also there's an advantage even for very small, innovative players, right, that could potentially come up with a game-changing idea. How do you rate where you stack in this ecosystem, and what are your advantages, but where you're going to be investing to beef up your capabilities?
Many questions in your question, as usual. So let's try to look at the different animals that you have mentioned.
In the zoo that I just presented you with.
A wonderful zoo. Let's start with the GAFA, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
These companies are exceptional companies. They have done great things. Having said so, they are not in the same world as we are. We are in what I call a mission critical or safety critical world, where most of the time life is at stake.
Right.
And it means that you have very specific and stringent constraints on the technology you use, in particular artificial intelligence or data analytics. You need to care even more about the quality of the data, the integrity of the data, the integrity of the algorithm, and so on and so forth. And these big animals, they prefer, up to now, to tackle the huge market, which is 13 billion human beings on Earth, rather than tackling very demanding customers, small in numbers, with market value, again, rather small. Another factor is that to really serve a customer needs or meet a customer needs, you have to manage the technology, but also to have a deep understanding of how you run his operations, what I call domain knowledge. And this great combination between technological domain and domain knowledge really Thales has this fantastic combination. The GAFA doesn't so far. So for them, it would be difficult, never impossible, let's stay modest, but difficult to come and to explain to an airline, to a satellite operator, to a ground transportation operator, that he knows how he runs his operation and he can leverage the AI technology he masters in this environment.
What are, there are about 20 dream products that you guys are working on. Give us a flavor of this investment. Again, $4 billion a year is quite a lot of money, or $3.5 billion, but you're going to go to 4 billion euros by 2021, I think, is in your plan. Talk to us about a little of these dream products and how you think it's going to position you for further market growth, because that's one thing that you guys have demonstrated over the past couple of decades, actually, is that sustained investment actually pays off in long-term market position.
Well, you can apply these technologies to cybersecurity, for instance, to be even more reactive, even more efficient. When you try to detect a cyber attack, usually you compare, again, a database with the logs that you gather from all the equipment that a given customer has. Not tomorrow, but today, we are able, in fact, to drastically reduce the time between an attack and the moment you detect it by using AI. Why so? Because most of the new attacks are not already identified, are not already, I would say, in your database. But by being able to detect what I call weak signals, some unusual behaviors of a server, of a router, in a continent where normally it should not work during night, you are able to detect these attacks instead of several months, in several days or minutes. So you see the efficiency of AI in a very demanding market like cybersecurity.
Ethics is another big question. Obviously, there's a thing of robotic killing, although I think almost every nation is talking about having people still in the loop when it comes to weapons release. But you spoke in the presentation with journalists and taking journalist questions about the ethics both inside the company, but also the role that companies like Thales and other players in artificial intelligence can play internationally and with governments in sort of setting up standards. What are the kind of standards, systems, and ecosystem that you think is needed? So what are you doing inside the company, but what do you think has to happen outside the company to create that structure that maintains public trust in what is a technology that is extremely beneficial on the one hand, but potentially also dangerous from either a civil liberties or even a personal security standpoint?
I think trust, the word you have used, trust, is absolutely key, in particular for artificial intelligence. Now we need, I would say, probably, or certainly, both. First, we need regulations or rules, even laws, international treaty. To that, I would say democratic countries, I would say, share the same view in terms, where do we authorize the use of, let's say, AI or not? But in parallel, we have started our own, I would say, due diligence, our own analysis. Where do we draw our red line. Us as a company, we are not a state, we are not a government, as a company. So there are, say, clear case where we said no, typically killer robots. It's a clear no for us. And there are other areas where you see the technology can be used to protect, but also to attack. So how can we make sure that we raise the level of awareness, of vigilance of our own engineers, so that we can take the right decision on the use of these technologies?
Let me ask you let me ask you, I have three quick questions, and I know we've got about a couple of minutes left, but I want to ask you three quick questions. One, you're in the midst of a massive integration challenge. You're bringing the Gemalto business aboard. There's a culture piece of it. You've hit record margins. My friend Sash Tusa of the independent analytics firm Agency Partners in London, talked about how you guys are really doing this balance of having high R&D, but also being able to deliver record margin. How are you doing this balance? Because you're driving efficiency at the same time, and that sometimes gets companies into trouble. How are you guys balancing all of these three pieces and to try to avoid a train wreck, say 2 years from now, because you may not have made the right calls ultimately?
Well, in 2 minutes, that's the challenge. It's a very, very difficult task. Seen from the outside, it seems simple. Yes, we have been able to generate growth, profitable growth, while investing more and more in absolute value and also in relative terms. For that, we have started a complete transformation of the company. It was necessary to revisit every aspect of Thales: purchasing, supply chain, engineering, project and product management, product policy, every aspect. And I must admit that so far we have been able to run fast enough, not only to improve the profit of the company, but to have enough margin to invest more.
Let me ask you about another European. I think people don't pay attention how much merger and defense consolidation has been going on across Europe. And obviously, you were a key player in that, whether in Northern Ireland buying Shorts a long time ago, but even on the Gemalto deal. There's a very important transaction, naval consolidation, that's been on the table between Naval Group and Fincantieri. There have been a lot of very tough statements made by the new Italian leader about France, and there are those who feel that that deal is on the verge of stalling. As somebody who has a very important stake in Naval Group, what do you think the future is for naval consolidation in Europe, and naval consolidation in Europe in particular with Italy? Does it go on despite some of these strong comments by Matteo Salvini?
I'm not going to comment any, I would say, governmental official expression, whether it's French, Italian, or any other country. What we see, what we need is to make sure that be it Naval Group or be it any other partner with which we work, what makes the difference on international markets, it's what I call a technological excellence. What drives the decision of a navy in the Middle East, in Asia, in Southeast Asia, is the edge that they will have in terms of military capability, but this advantage comes from the technology. So yes, what is important for me when we make a deal, be it with Fincantieri, be it with someone else, to make sure that it is driven by technological excellence.
And so as long as the deal makes technological and financial sense, you think you still press ahead with the transaction?
Yes, absolutely. We are pragmatic.
Let me ask one last question, which is about the United States. The merger and acquisition market in the United States is going very strong.
Yeah.
Thales was a bidder for DRS Technologies. The Italians won that.
Long time ago.
That was a long time ago. That was before your time. But certainly you've been willing to make big bets. Right now, I think there are a property or two that are available. You've grown through acquisitions. Do you see yourself doing a big deal and planting that flag, because you're one of the last big European players that does not have a far bigger defense footprint? Almost every other nation has done that. Do you see growing your footprint in the United States and doing it in a dramatic fashion?
We are open. Again, let's be pragmatic. Why not? It is something that is possible. It's doable on a financial standpoint, and it's possible. Having said so, we have grown our presence a lot in the US in our civil businesses. So yes, we have not made any, I would say, big move in defense But in the meantime, we have been able to grow the footprint, our footprint in the US, thanks to our civil domain. Guavus was in the US, Vometric was and is in the US, Live TV was and is in the US, Gemalto has a very significant presence in the US. So the US clearly is a key and strategic country for the future of Thales.
And do you see continued space growth given that the market has fundamentally changed from 3-ton mega satellites to CubeSats? A lot more competitors in that market, and you guys are a leader in it.
On the long term, yes, because the need for connectivity, for IoT is there. The need is massive. It is true that in 2017, 2018, the telecommunication market has been rather calm, quiet. However, we are a long-term player. So no need to panic, we are patient, and the market will, of course, resume because of this need, which is still there.
Patrice Caine, CEO of Thales Group. Patrice, thanks very much. Thanks for hosting us, and it was a fantastic event, and look forward to all the stuff we're going to manage to see tomorrow as well. Thank you.
Super. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.